Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy, a one stop destination for the English medium civil services aspirants. Let's get started with the analysis of today's The Hindu newspaper. These are the topics that we shall be discussing today. But first up, the brave Jawans of the Indian Armed Forces carried out a very successful Operation Sindoor to avenge the Pahalgam attack, a dastardly attack in which terrorists, sponsored and trained by Pakistani deep state, killed 26 innocent civilians and tourists, 25 Indians and one Nepali. The Indian Defense Ministry says that Operation Sindoor was carried out early in the morning, in which 9 sites were targeted. Prominent sites include Bahawalpur, which is the headquarters of Jaish-e-Mohammed, led by Masood Azhar. And remember, the same Masood Azhar whom we have arrested. We had arrested in the past, but we had to release him when IC 814, the Indian Airlines plane, it was hijacked by the terrorists and then sent to Talibani controlled Kandahar. And in exchange for the return of the hostages, we had to release three dreaded terrorists. One, Masood Azhar, who later on founded Jaish-e-Mohammed. The other, Mushtaq Zargar, who founded Al Umar Mujahideen in Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and Umar Sharif as well. Another important site which was targeted was Murid K, which is roughly 40 kilometers from Lahore, which is considered to be the launch pad, the terror ground for Lashkar-e-Toiba. Lashkar-e-Toiba of Hafiz Saeed, the one who was responsible for various attacks on Indian soil, and more prominently, the 2611 attacks in Mumbai. Let's hope that these strikes, which were carried out by the proud and brave Jawans of the Indian Armed Forces, would act as a deterrent to prevent Pakistan from perpetrating such crimes against humanity. The Indian Defense Ministry has said that these attacks were non escalatory in the sense we did not attack the Pakistani military establishment. If we would have done that, it may have been construed as an act of war. So we have attacked the terror infrastructure on 9 sites in Pakistan occupied Kashmir as well as inside Pakistan. Missiles were fired, and let's hope it acts as a deterrent. And at the same time, if Pakistan is claiming that we are also fighting a war against terror, then ideally, in an ideal world, Pakistan should support Operation Sindoor, because we are then helping Pakistan to dismantle the terror infrastructure on its soil, which it has failed to curb and eradicate. So Pakistan should join hands with India to dismantle the terror infrastructure on its soil because they have failed to do that. So that is related to Operation Sindoor. Something else. You may be aware that we have launched a new program, a new product called Unacademy PLATINUM. And this product is primarily for those who feel demotivated, who lack consistency, who need more mentorship, more emphasis on answer writing techniques. For such serious candidates, we have Unacademy Platinum. The first batch will be launching on the 12th of May, 2025. And if you want to experience Unacademy Platinum for free, there is a free class which will be conducted tomorrow, 8th of May at 7 p.m. The link to register for Unacademy Platinum experience session is provided in the video description. But if you are self motivated, you don't need an external push to prepare for the civil services exam. All you need is a well structured course through which you can cover your syllabus, and you are self disciplined, self motivated as well. You don't lack consistency. Then, for you, if not platinum, we have plus, Unacademy Plus, which right now is offered at an all time low subscription fee. For 12 months, it is 17,999. You go to our website if you wish to enroll in Unacademy Plus, take a look at various offerings. You may see a different price being quoted on the website, but if you apply this code IAS English, you will automatically unlock the lowest subscription fee, which is 17,999. And I'm told that this offer, which has been running for more than a week now, is going to end on 10th of May. Clear? Let's look at the first editorial in today's The Hindu newspaper, the persuasion strategy. Security drills, or what is called the war drills, will be conducted at various places in this country today. This is to keep people aware, conscious of a possible retaliation by Pakistan. And one important mode of this security drill or war drill are blackouts. Now, what are these blackouts? Major cities, especially those which are along the border or some important establishments, for example, our power plants, our defense buildings, they experience blackouts. That means the power, the electricity is turned off, which makes it very difficult for the enemy warplanes to detect these areas and bomb them. So, this is to save, to preserve these important installations. And for that, we want people to be conscious. We want people's consciousness to go to a higher level so that if we anticipate a retaliation from Pakistan, we can keep our civilian population ready. What to do, what not to do when there is a possible retaliation from the enemy. There is one thing called defense preparedness, which means the army, the air force, the navy, they will prepare themselves for a possible onslaught against the enemy or the retaliation from the enemy. But then there is something called civilian preparedness. The last time such war drills were carried out were during 1971 war between India and Pakistan, which led to the emergence of Bangladesh as an independent entity. And now these war drills or security drills will be conducted at various places in India today. These blackouts are very, very important. But these blackouts can also have some contradictions. Contradictions in the sense we have power grids. These power grids are finely designed, which means the generation, the power generation must meet the demand for power at all times. Blackout may be for a specific time period. The entire power will be shut. People will be asked to turn off their lights because we want to make people aware and make them ready for a possible onslaught by the enemy so that the lights will not be able to force the enemy to drop bombs at your sites. Blackouts are important. But if the demand for the power simultaneously drops down, it may affect and test the resilience of these power grids. Because I told you that generation must meet demand at all times. That's how our power systems are finely designed. If, for example, there is a drop in demand for electricity, for power, what it will do, it will cause excess power at the power grid. Then what may also happen is that power grid may be destroyed, which means sometimes what can happen is that power plants which are connected to this power grid, they may automatically turn off. Then what will happen? To restore these power plants again can be problematic, can be troublesome. And then once you turn off the electricity again, the sudden surge in the demand will also test the resilience of these power systems. That is why for these blackouts, we have to be properly prepared. For example, if you recall, in April 2020, at the peak of the COVID 19 lockdown, at 9 o'clock, the Prime Minister Modi announced that for 9 minutes we should turn off our power systems. That led to a sudden drop in the electricity demand by 31 gigahertz within minutes. Now, what the Hindu editorial is saying that now, because of these security grills, war grills, for the second time again, we are going to test the resilience of our power grids. That's number one. Number two, 9/11 attacks took place when terrorists hijacked planes and attacked United States. Two planes hit the World Trade Center. One plane hit one aspect, one area of the Pentagon, which is the defense establishment of the United States. And the other plane, it was argued, was moving towards the White House, but it was shot down near Pennsylvania. In response to that attack, from the rubble of the World Trade Center, George W. Bush, the then president of the United States, said, I hear you. That means there were claims, there were demands from the people that we should retaliate to this dastardly terror attack and we should dismantle the terror camps. And one person who was accused of carrying out this attack was Osama bin Laden, who was hiding in Afghanistan, which was then controlled by the Taliban. And then what United States did, carried out war on terror, attacked Afghanistan, captured Afghanistan, defeated Al Qaeda, defeated the Taliban, and later on, Al Qaeda chief Osama bin Laden was killed in an airstrike by the US Navy SEALs in Abbottabad in Pakistan. So that was United States' response to terror, to 9/11 attacks. But this Hindu editorial says it was easier for United States to retaliate because look at the geographical location of United States and how it carried out attack in Afghanistan. And for that, Afghanistan's retaliation was very, very minimal. In fact, zero, zilch. Why? Because there is a distance between the two countries. The United States used the launch pads of neighboring countries, for example, Pakistan, to mount airstrikes on Afghanistan, the Taliban controlled Afghanistan. But the Hindu editorial says we have to also be fearful of the retaliation from Pakistan because we share borders with Pakistan. It is not United States and Afghanistan, it is India and Pakistan. So we have to be prepared for the retaliation from Pakistan as well. Then what is the other alternative that we can have? The other alternative is we should persuade Pakistan to hand over the leaders of Jaish-e-Mohammed, Al-Qaeda, the Lashkar-e-Toiba, Terrorist Resistance Front, and various other fringe groups, and we should put diplomatic pressure on Pakistan to hand over these terrorists to us. And then we have to mount diplomatic assault as well, diplomatic attack as well, which we did after 26/11 Mumbai attacks were carried out. This was when, for the first time, Financial Action Task Force put Pakistan under grey list because this is the watchdog which focuses on terror financing, which focuses on money laundering. And this watchdog placed Pakistan under the grey list. And then the Pakistani media also focused on the residents, the village of Ajmal Amir Amin Kasab, who was caught red handed after the 26/11 attacks and then was hanged. Initially, Pakistan refused that we are not part of this attack. We have not carried out this attack. Our citizens are not part of this. But once Ajmal Kasab was caught during the 26/11 attacks, then even the Pakistani media focused on the village from where Ajmal Amir Kasab came from. And this embarrassed Pakistan. So, this embarrassment we have to focus upon according to the Hindu newspaper editorial. But related to this, there is another very interesting column written by T.S. Tirumurti, who was the permanent representative of our country to the United Nations. And what he says, Pahalgam attack took place, then what was the response from the other countries? If you look at United States is focusing on regional stability. For example, today when Donald Trump was asked about Operation Sindoor, he called it a shame. Whether he called the operation a shame or he called the escalation between the two countries a shame, that we don't know yet. But he called it a shame and is urging India to exercise restraint. How can a victim exercise restraint? Victim has the right to retaliate. Victim has the right to avenge for its assault. Now, United States is forcing, encouraging upon the government of India, which is the victim in this case, to exercise restraint. Same goes with Russia as well. The Russian foreign minister, Mr. Lavrov, has said that ties between New Delhi and Islamabad should be restored in such a manner that whatever problems they have should be resolved through political and diplomatic means, which means India, as a victim, should exercise restraint. We should not retaliate. Then what is European Union's High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy saying? They've even refused to call this Pahalgam attack as a terror attack. So now this column is saying that this global fight against terror has now been fragmented. Because what we saw after 9/11, there was a worldwide response to terrorism. all the countries of the world decided to unite to fight against this menace called terrorism. But now we see this fragmentation. Fragmentation in the sense, my terrorist and your terrorist is different. I will focus on my terrorist, you deal with your own terrorist. For example, United States is now focusing on racially and ethnically violent militant groups within United States. Similarly, Organization of Islamic Countries, it is only focusing on Islamophobic attacks which are taking place against the Muslims, and clearly negating and relegating to the back burner the attacks on other communities. Canada is saying that unless and until you provide us proof that our citizens are responsible for terror attacks in India, or we have the Khalistani supporters on our soil, we will not take action against them because your terrorist is not my terrorist. Look at the Sahel region, which is a group of 10 countries in Africa. For example, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, Mali. This area, according to Institute for Economy and Peace, it says more than half of the terrorism related deaths are happening in this Sahel region, but nobody is talking about it. So the terror attacks in Asia or Africa, we are asking these nations to fight on their own. The world is not outraged as at what is happening in Asia and Africa. And all the countries of the world, they are focusing on de-escalating matters between India and Pakistan, urging India to exercise restraint. Possibly it is because the world does not have further appetite for another conflict. Because there is a conflict between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. There is a conflict for more than 3 years between Russia and Ukraine. There are conflicts in Middle East as well. There is a problem with Houthis, where United States is bombing the Houthis of Yemen. So there is conflict at various places happening in the world. And maybe the world does not have the appetite for another conflict between India and Pakistan. And mind you, both India and Pakistan, these are nuclear countries. And this has been the advantage of Pakistan. In a sense, Pakistan has successfully convinced the international community that since we have nuclear weapons, we may use these nuclear weapons, which means then the world is wary of a conflict which may spiral out of control between India and Pakistan because both countries have nuclear weapons which they may use against each other, and ultimately it will destroy the world stability. And then in this scenario, what we need to do is, there has been a refreshing departure coming from United States, where US Director of National Intelligence, Ms. Tulsi Gabbard, has categorically termed the Pahalgam attack as an Islamist attack, mentioning that the victims, the targets of this attack, were identified because of their religion, because they were Hindus. If the world, let's say United Nations Security Council, they come together to condemn the attacks related to Islamophobia, related to anti Semitism, for example, when there is violence and hatred towards the Jews, or Christianophobia, where there is attack against the Christians because of their religion. Why should United Nations only focus on violence against Abrahamic religions? Because these are Abrahamic religions, Islam, Judaism, Christianity. What about non Abrahamic religions such as Hinduism? Is it not time for the United Nations to come together, United Nations Security Council to come together and condemn unequivocally the attacks against Hindus as well, against non Abrahamic religions as well? That's what this column is talking about. And at the same time, it talks about the path ahead. And what is that path ahead? We have strategic partners who are also close to Pakistan, such as Saudi Arabia, such as United Arab Emirates, UAE. And both these countries, they are witnessing some social reform within their countries. So Saudi Arabia under MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, is opening up its economy, it's opening up its society. It is no longer or trying to reduce discrimination against women and non-minorities. And it is opening up and giving a liberal image of Islam. UAE is also trying to do the same thing. If these are the two countries who are our strategic partners and they are also closer to Pakistan, it is high time that India should also put pressure on Saudi and UAE that you demand accountability from Pakistan. Because it cannot be that every now and then the terrorists trained and sponsored by Pakistan would cross the line of control, would kill Indians at their own whims and the fancies, and then there is no accountability on Pakistan. These strategic partners that we have, they should hold Pakistan accountable for what it has done. That is what this column is talking about. Long story short, there is a fragmentation happening in the world in the fight, in the global fight against terror. Because remember, when in 2001, 9/11 attacks were carried out against United States, George W. Bush, the then president of United States, said, "You are either with us or you are against us. You can't be neutral." It is high time that the countries of the world, they stop being neutral in this conflict, because this clearly is at the instigation of Pakistan. That's what you need to understand from this column. Now let's look at another column, how the judiciary maintains accountability. This is in response to what the Honorable Vice President of India, who is second in terms of warrant of precedence. There is President of India at the top, then there is the Vice President, then there is the Prime Minister. He has made some, according to the writer, disparaging remarks against the judiciary. What are these remarks? Calling judiciary a super parliament. Second, saying that there is no accountability of the judges. And third, judiciary cannot give directions to the president or the governor while they discharge their official duty. What does that mean? Listen to me carefully. A judgment was given by the Honorable Supreme Court, a two-judge bench of the Supreme Court, in a case related to Tamil Nadu, where the Tamil Nadu Legislative Assembly is passing bills. Bills are sent to the governor. Governor is not acting, assenting to those bills. Governor is mechanically reserving these bills for the consideration of the president. Legislative Assembly is the reflection of the sovereign will of the people. People of Tamil Nadu have elected their MLAs to the Tamil Nadu Legislative Assembly and they are passing bills. But if there is an unelected governor or the unelected president who is stopping these bills, it basically means they are blocking the sovereign will of the public. Supreme Court said this is enough, and Supreme Court invoked its plenary power, its discretionary power under Article 142, where Supreme Court can give any order so as to give complete justice. And what Supreme Court said? When a bill has been passed by the Legislative Assembly, it is sent to the governor. If the governor does not want to give signature to that bill, he will have to return this bill to the Legislative Assembly within 3 months. What will Legislative Assembly do? If the Legislative Assembly again passes the same bill, then the governor should sign this bill within 1 month. If a bill has been passed by the Legislative Assembly, it is sent to the governor, and if the governor uses his discretionary power to reserve this bill for the consideration of the president, then this action should be taken in 3 months. And what Supreme Court has done, effectively, it has said that there is no such thing as pocket veto. There is no such thing where the governor can sit on these bills without taking action at all for an indefinite time period. And what Tamil Nadu case Supreme Court said? Supreme Court invoked Article 142 and said all these 10 bills are deemed to have been assented. And for the first time in the history of independent India, 10 bills became laws in Tamil Nadu without proper signature of the governor of Tamil Nadu. And in response to that, the Supreme Court has said, what if the governor tomorrow fails to do this? Fails to give signature or reserve a bill or send the bill back within 3 months? In that case, we can approach the judiciary. Judiciary can issue mandamus, a writ of mandamus, wherein the Supreme Court will say, we command the president and the governor that you have to sign this bill because you are violating the time period which we have set. This the Vice President of India has said, criticized the role of the judiciary here, saying judiciary is not accountable and it is now becoming like a super parliament. And this article, written by the president of Center for Applied Research and Governance, he has defended the judiciary on all these three counts. Count number one, judiciary acting as a super parliament. This column says judiciary is not a super parliament because clearly parliament has the power in India under the constitution to make laws. Judiciary has not been given the power to make laws. And not just that, all the powers which are available to judiciary, these judicial powers are mentioned in the constitution itself. So it is not that judiciary is doing something unconstitutional or extra constitutional. Judiciary is exercising only those powers which are provided in the constitution itself. Is Article 142 not part of the constitution? It is. So how is judiciary acting as a super parliament? It is not, because judiciary is exercising only those powers which are given to the judiciary by the framers of the Indian constitution. But then we have separation of powers, where there are three different organs of the state: executive, legislature, judiciary. If parliament thinks that these judges are violating the constitution, they remove them. The process of removal is mentioned in the constitution itself, where if both houses of the parliament pass a resolution by a special majority, which means two-thirds of the members present and voting, plus majority of the total membership of the house, then the judge of the Supreme Court and High Court can be removed. So there is accountability as well in the constitution. And at the same time, this criticism that judiciary cannot give directions to the president or the governor, for that there is an interesting take given by the writer of this article. What he says, listen to me carefully. The bill has been passed by the Legislative Assembly. Who is made up of this Legislative Assembly? What comprises this Legislative Assembly? MLAs. MLAs are elected by people, which means people are being represented in the Legislative Assembly. Which means if a bill has been passed by the Legislative Assembly, it is passed by the people of that state through their representatives in the Legislative Assembly. And what if the president or the governor is blocking these bills, not giving signature to these bills, not assenting these bills? You are violating the sovereign will of the people, which the president and the governor cannot do. So what the judiciary has done, it has restored constitution. It has restored rule of law by not giving such powers to the judiciary, by not giving such powers to the president or the governor to block a bill which is passed by the sovereign will of the people. And just by prescribing a time limit, judiciary is not violating the constitution. On top of that, if the judiciary is not, if the parliament is not satisfied with any verdict given by the judiciary, it can also pass a law to undo the judicial verdict. Undo in the sense, listen to me carefully. Some of you have this question. Sir, can a judgment given by the honorable court be overturned by a parliamentary law? That's the question that you can have on your mind. I will give you a simple answer. Let's say, for example, here is the legislature, and the legislature is passing a law, and this law calls for banning alcohol. And what is the reason given by the legislature in passing this law calling for the ban on the alcohol? to respect religious sentiments. For example, whenever a bill has been introduced in the parliament or the state legislature, the concerned minister, while tabling this bill in the parliament, also tables a document called Objects and Reasons. What is the objective that we want to achieve through this bill? What are the reasons we are bringing such a bill in the parliament so that it becomes a law? And in that objects and reasons, we are specifying that we want to respect the religious sentiments of the people, and that is why we are banning alcohol in our state or in our country. This law can be challenged in the court because judicial review has been provided. Judicial review, Supreme Court has said, is part of the basic structure of the Constitution. Supreme Court can strike down this law, saying this law is null and void. Why? Because for respecting religious sentiments, you cannot bring in a law because we are a secular state. By passing such a bill, you may appease one community, but you may also violate the freedom of others to enjoy liquor, to enjoy drinks. In response to this striking down of the law by the judiciary, legislature can pass the law again, banning alcohol again, but this time not because of respecting religious sentiments, but to preserve or protect public health. And when such a bill is passed by the parliament again, judiciary cannot strike it down. Why? Because now the foundation of this bill has been changed. The objection of the court was you cannot bring in a law for respecting religious sentiment. Now that foundation has been removed by the parliament by enacting the law again, but this time it has changed the logic. We are bringing this law to protect public health, not to satisfy or respect the religious sentiments of the people. This power is also given to the parliament. So, who is the real parliament? There is no such thing as super parliament. Parliament is parliament, legislature composed up of the sovereign will of the people. The judiciary is not a super parliament, according to the writer. There is accountability because if you want these judges to be removed on the grounds of misbehavior, on the grounds of incapacity, then you can get them removed based on the resolution passed by the parliament. And giving directions to the judiciary is not similar to rewriting the constitution because again you're respecting rule of law, you're respecting the popular sovereignty because the ultimate sovereignty lies with the public. That is what you need to understand, how the judiciary maintains accountability. That is why there is this question for your practice. Discuss the adequacy and limitations of the existing mechanism for ensuring judicial accountability in India. Should a separate judicial accountability commission be established? Because let's also be fair. According to the existing mechanism, there is only one solution or one prescription. Justice Yashwant Verma of the Delhi High Court, from his house, video footage came out, according to which burnt cash was recovered from the residence of this judge of the Delhi High Court. If it is indeed proven, then this judge may be removed by the President of India based on the recommendations of both houses of the parliament. But till date, no judge of the Supreme Court and High Court has ever been removed through this process. Such a complicated process that till date, no judge has been removed through this process. Then what is the other alternative? There is an in-house committee, for example, for Justice Yashwant Verma, there is an in-house committee which has submitted its report to the Chief Justice of India. What has been done in this case is the judge has been transferred to his parent High Court, which is the Allahabad High Court. No judicial work has been assigned to this judge. Maximum what we can do is we can persuade him that you please resign. Or the other alternative is get him removed based on the resolution passed by the parliament. But there has been a time, for example, when Justice Ramaswamy, who was found guilty also of committing corruption, and he was to be removed based on the resolution passed by the parliament, but Congress party did not participate in that voting, abstained from the voting, and judge was saved. That is why we need an alternative. The alternative is anybody can approach an independent judicial accountability commission, which may comprise up of retired judges of the Supreme Court, which may comprise up of legal luminaries, which may comprise up of well-meaning individuals from the civil society, and together they should accept complaints about regarding the judges, and then whatever judgment is given by this commission should be binding. This independent judicial complaints commission or accountability commission should be established. That is what you need to understand from this column. Any questions as of now? Okay. Now let's look at another article. Center plans revision of safe harbor clause. But listen to me carefully. You have Article 19(1)(a), which is part of your freedom of speech and expression, known as the free speech. But this fundamental right is not absolute, which means there are reasonable restrictions. Reasonable restrictions in the sense your free speech, your exercise of free speech can be restricted on the grounds of sovereignty and integrity of India, security of the state, friendly relations with foreign states, public order, morality and decency, incitement to an offense, defamation, contempt of court. There are 8 reasonable restrictions mentioned in the Constitution. But is there a restriction if your speech is false or fake or misleading? Is there a reasonable restriction that your freedom of speech and expression can be restricted if your speech is false or fake or misleading? For example, somebody posting that 5 fighter jets of Indian Air Force have been shot down by Pakistan, clearly a fake news. For such speeches, for such exercise of free speech, what is the alternative? And what if these things are posted on social media intermediaries? For example, X, for example, Facebook, for example, Instagram, for example, YouTube. In response to the Pahalgam attack, there were these misleading fake news which was being propelled by the Pakistani based YouTube channels as well, some Indian channels as well, and we got them taken down. For example, 4 p.m. news was taken down. This YouTube channel was taken down because it was spreading false, fake, and misleading news related to the Pahalgam attack. There is something called safe harbor protection. What is the safe harbor protection? If I have posted something on Facebook or X or Instagram or YouTube, and what I'm saying is false, fake, misleading, will I be held accountable or will these social media intermediaries be held accountable? Social media intermediaries will not be held accountable because they have this safe harbor protection. Now, to make these rules stringent, what the government had done previously, it had released information technology rules, under which in Press Information Bureau, a department was carved out called Fact Check Unit. We had the publicity wing of the Government of India, of the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, known as PIB, Press Information Bureau, a very important website for civil services aspirants as well. Authentic releases by various ministries and departments of the government, they are released on PIB website. Within PIB, a fact check unit was to be created. And what was the purpose of this fact check unit? That it will go through YouTube videos or Instagram reels or YouTube shorts or X tweets and will flag them as either false, fake, or misleading. And once this fact check unit has flagged a particular message, as false, fake, or misleading, it will have to direct these social media companies to take this content down within 48 hours. And then, if these social media intermediaries fail to take down this content within 48 hours, then they will lose the safe harbor protection. That means these companies will then be held liable for their actions, for the actions of others who have posted content on their social media networking sites. But this fact check unit, in a landmark case known as the Kunal Kamra case, where the stand up comedian Kunal Kamra approached the Bombay High Court and challenged the validity of this fact check unit, the Bombay High Court, by the verdict of 2 is to 1, two judges said this fact check unit is null and void, unconstitutional, because then it gives enormous powers to the government that it can also flag content which is critical of the government. What if somebody is genuinely criticizing the government? What if somebody is saying that trains are not running on time, and the government may say that this is a misleading tweet and get it taken down by Twitter? This will violate the right of the citizens to criticize the government's actions or inactions. And that is why Bombay High Court said this fact check unit is unconstitutional. But the government, Ministry of Information and Electronics and Information Technology, it is in the process of filing a special leave petition against this Bombay High Court judgment before the Supreme Court. And what the government is planning to do, it is planning to revive this safe harbor clause. Revive this in the sense that now they are considering that we will revisit this template, that if the social media networking sites fail to take down the content which we say, which we flag as false, fake, misleading, then these social media sites will lose their safe harbor protection. Whether it will happen or not, that is what you need to understand. But for that, you need to understand first what is the safe harbor protection and what is the Kunal Kamra judgment regarding the fact checked unit. Okay. Kerala centered at odds in Supreme Court over withdrawal of petitions. We discussed the Tamil Nadu judgment, wherein the Supreme Court, a two-judge bench of the Supreme Court, prescribed a time limit within which the governor will have to act on the bills passed by the Legislative Assembly. Such a concern was also raised by Kerala, by Andhra Pradesh, by Telangana, by Karnataka, by Punjab as well, that in these opposition ruled states, the governor is blocking or sitting on these bills. Now, when the Tamil Nadu judgment has been given, there was another case which was pending before the Supreme Court related to Kerala, because Kerala government, through its attorney, Mr. K. Venugopal, who was previously the Attorney General for India, they have filed a petition before the Supreme Court challenging the governor's non-actions, inactions on passing the bills. And now this petition, the Kerala government wants to withdraw. Why? Because Kerala government says what applies in Tamil Nadu case will apply to all the states as well. Will apply to all the governors of all the states. It is not specific to Tamil Nadu. It is for general role, conduct, performance of the governor. But this time, the Solicitor General of India, Union government, which is being represented by the Solicitor General, he has objected and said the facts are different. The Tamil Nadu judgment will apply only in case of Tamil Nadu, will not apply to Kerala and other states. The Supreme Court prima facie has accepted that yes, Kerala government has the right to withdraw this petition, but it has now listed this matter on May 13. So May 13, we will see a final judgment on this matter, whether what the Supreme Court ruled in Tamil Nadu case will apply to all the governors of all the states or not, or is it specific to Tamil Nadu? That's what you will have to keep searching for. And in this backdrop, we will have a question for your practice. Examine the discretionary powers of the governor with respect to assent to bills passed by the state legislature. Comment in light of the recent apex court rulings on the matter. Okay? Great. Let's look at another important article from page number 1. India UK conclude landmark trade deal known as the Free Trade Agreement. India is right now negotiating a free trade agreement with various countries. For example, United States, for example, European Union, for example, Peru, for example, Chile. And now we have concluded this free trade agreement with the United Kingdom. But what is this free trade agreement? You might have read so many times in the past that there is a tariff war going on where United States is imposing tariff on the import of goods coming from various countries. For example, India, for example, China, for example, other countries such as Europe. Although Donald Trump has suspended some tariffs because of the retaliation coming from the domestic industry or whatever, in response to this tariff war, India and UK, they have quickly, although this was going on for a long time, but now because of this impetus driven by Donald Trump's, now this UK India free trade agreement has been signed. But what is this free trade agreement? Free trade agreement means that maybe the tariffs will be either completely removed or will be reduced. But it is not entirely free because there are still some exceptions. There are still some conditions. There are still some strategic interests. So free trade agreement is not always free. It may be a misnomer as well. But what is this free trade agreement between India and UK? Listen to me carefully. Indian exports to UK. And what are these Indian exports to UK? For example, footwear. For example, leatherware. For example, technical equipments. Similarly, for example, automobile components. On which currently tariffs were imposed in Europe, in United Kingdom. Now the tariffs on footwear, textiles, automobile components, minerals would be eliminated. Currently tariffs were in the range of 2%, 18%. That means ranging between 2 to 18% tariffs were imposed on Indian exports to United Kingdom, whether it was textile or it was footwear or it was minerals or it was automobile components. These tariffs were imposed. Now these tariffs will be eliminated. And who will benefit from this? The Indian textile industry, the Indian exporters to United Kingdom. That means now we will have a competitive advantage over the exports coming from Bangladesh because Bangladesh is positioning itself as the textile factory of the world. Similarly, Vietnam. So our goods produced by our exporters will have a competitive advantage in United Kingdom. So it's a win-win deal for us. Similarly, what we will do in response, we will reduce tariffs on whiskey, on gin. Right now, the tariff is 150% on the whiskey or gin imported from United Kingdom to India. We will reduce it to 75% once the deal will take place. And then over a period of 10 years, we will further reduce these tariffs to 40%. So this may be a win-win situation for an Indian consumer, for the exporters from United Kingdom to India, but it will or it may impact the alcohol beverage industry in India. For the safety of Indian farmers, dairy farmers, the butter, the milk produce, those exports from India, when it comes to the dairy products, there will be still tariffs imposed by Indian government to safeguard our domestic industry. Then there is something else known as contribution convention agreement or double contribution convention agreement. What is this? Listen to me carefully. There are Indian engineers or Indian workers who travel to United Kingdom on short-term projects. But these employees, they will have to contribute money to UK social security systems, social security funds. And then the employers of these Indians, they also have to contribute to these social security funds, which is a burden on Indian employee as well, on the employers of Indians in UK as well. But at the same time, Indian employee is not getting any benefit from the social security because by the time their project ends, they have to go back to India. For a long time, the employers in India, as well as the employers in United Kingdom, they have been persuading the government that you should keep Indian workers, those who are working on a temporary period, on a temporary basis in UK, from contributing to the social security funds. And that is what we call double contribution convention agreement. Because right now we are contributing doubly. We are contributing as an Indian employee to EPFO as well, and then to social security funds in UK as well. To avoid this double contribution, now Indian workers who are working in UK for a temporary period, they don't have to contribute to these social security funds. Neither has the employer of this Indian who is working in UK for a short period contribute to the social security fund. And similar agreement we have with other countries as well. For example, Belgium, for example, Germany, for example, Switzerland, for example, France, for example, South Korea, the Samsung industry, Netherlands, Denmark, which means Indians going abroad for employment are not required to contribute towards social security schemes in these countries because they are contributing to EPFO in India. Only if you are working there for a short term on a short project, after that you will come back. This is also part of this India UK free trade agreement, where India and UK also have agreed over this double contribution convention agreement, where Indian employees in UK working on a short term period are not required to contribute to these social security funds. That's it. Clear? Great. Now let's look at another column, another article. Supreme Court clears path for local body polls in Maharashtra. If we look at 74th Amendment to the Indian Constitution, which was enacted in 1993, under which what happened? Urban local bodies were created and urban local bodies were given constitutional status. One such status was that there will be reservation in these urban local bodies. For whom? For SCs, for STs. There will be reservation for women as well. Reservation for SCs and STs will be in proportion to their population. Reservation for women will be not less than one third of the seats shall be reserved for women. But what about reservation for OBCs? What about reservation for the other backward classes? This is a voluntary thing. If the state government wants, they may provide reservation to OBCs in urban local bodies, or for that matter in Panchayati Raj institutions. But on this OBC reservation in urban local bodies, there is a landmark verdict given by the Supreme Court in 2021. This case is known as Kishan Rao Gawali versus State of Maharashtra, 2021. In this Vikas Kishan Rao Gawali, to be more accurate, in this case, the Supreme Court has said that the state cannot reserve seats for OBCs in urban local bodies unless and until a triple test is followed. And what is that triple test? Number one, you have to set up a commission. So a commission is to be set up so that this commission can look at other backward classes and their backwardness and their representation in urban local bodies, and then also decide if we provide reservation to OBCs, is it going to empower these OBCs or not? So, first, a commission has to be set up. This commission will conduct an empirical study, and through this study, the commission will decide whether OBCs are represented in urban local bodies or not, and what will be the nature and implication of reservation if we give reservation to OBCs. This is test number one. Test number two, then this independent commission will also have to specify the proportion of reservation. What is the percentage of reservation that we have to give to OBC? And then test number three, all the reservation put together, whether it is SC, ST, OBC, not women's reservation, SC, ST, OBC reservation, this put together should not exceed 50%. Long story short, if the state wants to provide OBC reservation in urban local bodies, for that it has to first implement, perform a triple test, abide by the triple test as mandated by the Supreme in 2021 in a case known as Vikas Krishan Rao Gawali versus State of Maharashtra 2021, in which the Supreme Court has said that you have to perform this triple test. Test number one, set up a commission. Through this commission, study will be conducted to check, to decide the nature and implication of reservation. What is the implication if we give reservation to OBCs in urban local body? Then specify what is the percentage of reservation that we have to give them based on their population, based on their backwardness. And then you have to also ensure that this reservation under no circumstance shall exceed 50%. Which reservation? SC, ST, OBC reservation put together should not exceed 50%. And now in Maharashtra, a commission was set up known as Banthia Commission. And this Banthia Commission had recommended 27% OBC reservation, which means the total reservation for OBC, SC, and ST will not exceed 50%. And now the Supreme Court has accepted this because Maharashtra has performed and abided by this triple test. Now the Supreme Court has okayed OBC reservation in urban local bodies. Clear? Let's look at another article from page number 1 of today's The Hindu newspaper. India up 3 spots to 130 among 193 nations in HDI, but inequality still persists. I think it was 1990. Human Development Report was released by United Nations Development Program. So this is very important for prelims. You should know who releases this HDI, this composite index called HDI. It is released by United Nations Development Program, UNDP. Way back in 1990, a Human Development Report was released by UNDP. It was authored by Pakistani economist Mehboob Haq, and it had a significant contribution by our Nobel laureate, Professor Amartya Sen as well. And they said, what is one way of measuring the development of a country? It is not only GDP, because what is GDP? The monetary value of goods and services produced in an economy. That is how we calculate the GDP. But this report said, Human Development Report said, that we should not only look at development from the perspective and the prism of the GDP, we should look at it in terms of human development. And that is how Human Development Index, this composite index, was released for the first time in 1990, based on this Human Development Report. And what this HDI does, it's a composite index which measures human development in 3 dimensions. 3 dimensions are taken into account, and that is how HDI is calculated. The first is life expectancy at birth. This reflects the ability of people to live a long and healthy life. What is the life expectancy at birth? That's number 1. Number 2, education. But education is measured by 2 ways. One is Mean years of schooling. What is the average number of years a student, somebody who is 25 years or above, what is the average number of years that this particular individual has received education? That is what we call mean years of schooling. Then expected years of schooling. Number of years a child entering school is expected to study. And it is through this that we measure education. Because when life expectancy is good, when education is good, and then the standard of living, which is calculated based on PPP, purchasing power parity, all these three put together, we have devised an index called Human Development Index, and that will be the true reflection of the development of a particular country. Because we should not be measuring development only in terms of GDP, but also in terms of whether people have the ability to live a meaningful life. And they can live a living meaningful life if they have a better standard of living, if they have better life expectancy, if they have better access to education. And now for 2023, the year 2023, this report has been released. Now we are ranked 130 amongst 193 countries. Last time our rank was 133. Now it has reduced to, we basically improved to 130. And in this composite index, our value is 0.685, which means we are in the category of medium human development category. And if we improve it even further, if we reach to 0.7, then we will be in a high human development category. So maybe basically it means that we have improved than last year's. And at the same time, this HDI has said that there is inequality. Health and education inequality has reduced. That means our life expectancy has increased. Our life expectancy, which was 58.6 in 1990, this has improved to 72 in 2023. So our life expectancy has increased. Our education indicators have increased, but there is still inequality. Inequality in terms of gender disparity. What is this gender disparity? Women contribution to the labor force participation rate is less. Women's political empowerment is also less. Although this might change when we implement the 106th constitutional amendment, which mandates not less than one third of the seats in Lok Sabha and Legislative Assembly should be reserved for women. This will give fillip to women's empowerment. So this gender disparity may be reduced, but we still have a long way to go. Long story short, this HDI for 2023, India is ranking 130 out of 193. This report is released by United Nations Development Program. What is our score on this HDI? 0.685, which means we are still in the medium human development category. We have done well when it comes to life expectancy, when it comes to education, but we still are facing inequality, disparity when it comes to gender disparity, which means the lower participation of women in labor force and at the same time lower or reduced political empowerment of women. That's what you have to keep in mind from this newspaper article. Now let's look at the last article. Subramaniam removed over impropriety, says the Congress. Mr. KV Subramaniam, he was previously Chief Economic Advisor of the Union Finance Ministry. And you would know that as Chief Economic Advisor of the Union Finance Ministry, he was also responsible for publishing, authoring a very important document known as the Economic Survey, which is very, very important, at least for you, the civil services aspirants. Then, once his term got over, He was appointed by the government of India as the executive director at the International Monetary Fund. And then the allegation is, although he was removed before his term tenure at the IMF got over, he was removed by the government of India. Recalled by the government of India is the better word. And it is alleged that when he was the chief economic advisor, maybe he put undue pressure on a bank known as the Union Bank of India because he had authored a book. And Union Bank of India, this book was published by the Rupa publications. This Union Bank of India pre-ordered this book from Rupa publication by giving them a tender of more than 7 crore rupees. So this was impropriety. And maybe the government of India got to know about this, and that is how he was recalled from IMF. But you don't have to understand these technicalities or these political events. What you need to understand is that there is a committee of the cabinet known as the Appointments Committee. You would have read about this that there are 8 cabinet committees. One is the Appointments Committee of the cabinet, which is headed by the Prime Minister, and the Home Minister is another member of this Appointments Committee. So basically, all the important appointments above the rank of the Joint Secretary are cleared by the Appointments Committee. What if there is a question asked? Appointments Committee is responsible for the appointment of India's executive director at International Monetary Fund. Is this statement correct or incorrect? This statement is correct because his name as India's executive director at the International Monetary Fund was cleared by the Appointments Committee of the Cabinet. That is how you should extract polity news from political news. And that is what you need to keep in mind. And that's about it from today's The Hindu newspaper analysis. If you have got the benefit of attending this session, do press the like button and let me know in the comment section. I'll see you again tomorrow, 10 o'clock in the morning. Till then, have a great time. All the best. Bye bye.